here with a video. I think I said I was gonna do last month. I think last month, right? I did. I talked about the pressure to read. I talked about the pressure to read and feeling the pressure to read and how you shouldn't feel pressure to read, and that I wanted to talk about the pressure to read recommended books. So that's what this video is about. So specifically, there's kind of two ways this can go. You can go with the pressure of reading recommended books that people recommend to you, and then the pressure of recommending books. So when it comes to reading, like people recommending books to me, this mostly applies to like my real life. If I ask for suggestions, like recommended books in videos and stuff, or if somebody leaves a comment recommending a book, I don't feel as much pressure. A lot of times I'll add it to my list, and if I get to it, I get to it. If I don't, I don't. If it particularly interests me, then that's great, and I'll make a point of reading it. But I don't feel the same kind of pressure I feel when it comes to like real life books. And I don't know why that is, although I think part of it actually is that I trust people who are leaving YouTube comments or who are recommending books to me on Goodreads more than I trust people in my real life. A lot of times what happens in my, like personally for me in my real life, is that somebody will be like, oh, you read books, let me recommend this book to you. That's great, I appreciate it. I'll usually say like, oh, thank you, I will check it out or whatever. But like 9 out of 10 times, it's not a book I would ever read. And it's not because it's not a good book, I'm sure it is. It's just not the type of book that I would like to read. So like a lot of people will recommend like Stephen King or something. That's just not me. That's my mom. Like she's the Stephen King person. I don't know, but I feel this like uneasy pressure when people recommend books to me. Like I have to read it and then I have to report back to them, and like, and sometimes people will be like, oh, did you read it? Did you read it? Did you read it? And I'll be like, insert generic excuse here. I feel that kind of pressure. I'm sure I shouldn't, but I do, and I don't have any tips for handling it, except I guess try to be nice about it. And let me know if you feel pressure when people recommend books to you. Like, and if it's different between like online or in real life or anything like that. And then there is the pressure of recommending books. When I do my book reviews, I always end it by saying like, would I recommend this or not? That is fine for me, because I usually, most of the time when I'm doing a review, I'm gonna recommend it, and I will just qualify my recommendation based on like trigger warnings, or if there's a lot of romance or that kind of thing. But what's hard for me is kind of two things in here. One is when somebody says they read a book because I recommended it. That scares the crap out of me. I think I said this in that other video and I can't remember if I cut it out or not. I just am like petrified whenever somebody reads a book that I enjoyed that they're not gonna like it. And it's not because I think it's a problem if you don't. If you don't, you don't. Like, that's completely cool. There's books that I don't like that other people seem to love, and that I love and people don't seem to love. That's fine. But I'm like so scared you're gonna like hold it against me if you don't like it and be like, oh, she likes it, or you're gonna think something about me, something like that. Especially if I get like super like fangirly about a book, then I start to be like, oh my gosh, am I being too much? Like, should I pull it back? Like, is this gonna set up unrealistic expectations? And then there's pressure because of that, and I just don't know what to do. The other thing is when people will leave comments and will be like, oh, can you recommend other historical romances or whatever? And again, I'm always afraid to leave a recommendation. I feel like this in my real life too. When people ask me for recommendations of books, if I really know you, it's fine. Like there were particularly two people at my job. One is no longer there, the other still is, who we read a lot of the same type of books for the most part. So the three of us would like exchange books and share books, and we would talk about things, and that felt comfortable. Like, they would recommend things to me, I would recommend things to them, but you have more of a knowledge base there. When somebody leaves a comment on a video saying like, oh, would you I don't know. There's so many things to answer about that. Like, even if you literally just say like, please recommend a historical romance, that there are still like 100 subcategories underneath that. Like, are we talking about Westerns? Are we talking about Regency? Are we talking about British? Are we talking about Scottish? Are we talking about Asian? Are we talking, like, are we talking about steampunk? Are we, like, is it paranormal? Is it, do you mind sex? Do you not want, like, do you want something that's dramatic? Do you want something angsty? Do you want something that's more comedic? Like, there's so many other questions, and so a lot of times I go with like my default answers because I feel like those are easy. Especially if somebody's trying to get into the genre, it's hard for me, especially just in a comment, to say like, this is what I would suggest. I think there's much more of like, you know, I kind of have like gateway books if I could have like a conversation with a person. Maybe someday I'll do this and I'll put together like a questionnaire or something that would refer you to books. Plus there's so many books I haven't read. Like, that's my other thing, is I have several videos up that are romance recommendations, historical, paranormal, contemporary, young adult recommendations, new adult recommendations, all of those things. Even with all of those books and all the books I've read, which is thousands, there's still so many out there I haven't read, and it's kind of daunting to think that like you're gonna expose somebody to something. I don't know. This probably wasn't that coherent. Is that something new? No. So this is just talking about pressure. I know I shouldn't feel this kind of pressure. Like, I'm sure the majority of people who recommend books to me and are asking for recommendations aren't gonna like hate me, but it's how I feel. Anxiety life. It's something that I deal with, and if you deal with it too, feel free to let me know. And if you want to take this opportunity to recommend some books to me, feel free to do so down in the comments below, and I will check them out. And don't ever feel like you can't leave a recommendation just because I am saying this. Like I said, typically my YouTube recommendations I feel much more comfortable with. Doesn't mean I'm gonna read it, but I will certainly check it out on like Goodreads, and then potentially add it to a list, a running list that I have of books to read. That's the other thing, there's so many books in the world, I can't read them all. So yeah, that's this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.